So just like when the sun's below the horizon, say it's 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, and you think of somebody, you're thinking about somebody, but because you have a feeling about them, you want to call them, but you realize, oh, if you just call them, you're going to disturb them because it's middle of the night, and what do you wake me up for? But if you think about it, you would not call. But sometimes someone's feeling more than they're thinking, and they will call. And this paradox goes on. Just these four categories are the four categories in life. Any organization of society or life or understanding of it has to come aligned with this. But we're seeing how an individual person is born to find confidence and to think, to feel, to have values, to attract things, to want things, and to build up confidence that I'm me in whatever area it is. So, okay. When I go, the other objective side is the sensational side. And sensation, maybe sensitivity would be sensation and reaction. It's sensitive functioning. One is sensible. One is sensitive to the sensations of other people and able to objectively react. That person does this job, we're not getting this one. We got this career, we got these responsibilities, we got these things going, but we're missing something. We need to get something done. Here's a person, I'm sensitive to the need. I can find out who to call to find out how to get this done without it making a personal problem, without blaming someone. Let's just fix it. That's practical common sense about relationships, about giving and taking and how you respond and how people are supposed to respond to you and how you get things from others and from responding. That's the sensational functional side. It includes our philosophy. We're aligned to be with the same religious beliefs. If we're part of a team with the same beliefs, oh boy, we have the same beliefs. We're sensitive to the same beliefs. It's easier to form partnerships and relationships when we're on the same team and we have the same beliefs. It doesn't mean if you have your son there, you have to be aligned with some same beliefs, but you're going to have very strong principles about who's with you and who's not, who's aligning with you, who's responding to you and who's not, and what's right or wrong responses. Okay, if someone's affecting you in a way that's right, you'll respond in one way. If it's affecting a way that's wrong, you're wrong. But you're going to be sensitive to it, and you're going to try and solve it socially. So there's a need to, if you have your son in this 9th, 8th, 7th quadrant, the sensation quadrant, there's a need to find your importance by doing to help the community or to be part, to have a social cause, to do something that's meaningful in the community, in the eyes of others, so other people respond to it, to help people, like a fundraiser, even doing business, but like, I got this, will you exchange for this, we'll do this. And there's a sensitivity to how to respond to other people, a sensitivity to how other people are putting energy into your world, affecting you positively or negatively. The thinking side is projecting it and may run into blocks, but they're still thinking about how to overcome them. They're not necessarily sensitive to the other side. Whereas the sensitive side can see how there's 2 or 3 different opinions here, how we're going to solve it. They're not just thinking one way is going to come up with. But unless they're part of the church and the church is saying it's all this way, we have to do it this way, and it becomes negative to any other ways. But usually this is more open, more counselors, therapists, preachers will have, I shouldn't say preachers because it's more like, it seems like putting out, but people that are talking to a group and able to work a group and interact with a group and get people to work together and react to each other. Some people have this to a very great degree. See, it's my blind spot. I have my planets more down the other way. I have trouble seeing things like that. And often I don't fit into the way other people think I should fit in. So what happens then? I'm a non-person. But in a marriage, you have a marriage, you have to talk to each other, you have to be sensitive, you have to listen, not just talk. It's there. You have to share money and share resources, and how much of our money goes to my friends or your friends. Are you thinking about that? How come we're always going to your partner, your boss's functions every, but my bosses and my business friends you couldn't care less about? Whoa. That's an 8th house scenario. Who gets the inheritance? There's 5 kids. Who gets an inheritance? Well, we should all divide it equally, but not everybody feels the same. Who's sensitive to this? So mediation, trying to find out what's right or wrong to solve things. This is a really kind of social, wise, interreactive side. But there's an ability to react and sense what's right or wrong. How do we work? How we can put this together? And negatively, what's wrong? How come this isn't being we're putting this together, it's not working right? How do you get out of a bad relationship? How do you move on? That's the problems with this sensation have. When a relationship ends, how do you start a new one? They're not good at starting things, they're good at responding to things. So often people with a lot of planets in the sensation house, especially with their sun there, it's important that if you're going to get married, that you don't just follow the husband, that you have the husband or the wife, and you're in touch. You stay in touch with your friends and and you make your friends part of your life. It's important to keep the functioning social, not just isolated at home. Oh, okay. So if you're going to use this as a model to look at male or female roles, big contention these days, always has been, but really these are the different priorities. These are the standards, and every individual can go in either way, but we're going to have a bias in one way or another. Okay, so man or woman with the sun above the horizon, their power is around relationships and career and building things up and friends. Below the horizon, it's not so much about building things up. So someone with their planets below the horizon could decide to have a kid or have a kid without even thinking of the functional repercussions and responsibilities. Or could easily I'll stay at home, who cares? Like, you have these things working out to people as individuals, not because it's male or female roles. But they're often projected out into male-female roles, and that's how society should be. It's not always the correct way. So the weakness of that would be like a weakness of a wrong understanding, forcing people to act on it and having relationships within it and living within that interreaction without taking time to work things through yourself. So no matter where you are, there's going to be, no matter where the wave is of importance is, there's going to be the undertow of a lack of importance probably coming from the opposite side. So even though we're not defining, oh, it's just I'm thinking, important, I'm thinking, it sort of is. You have to work it and get down to this functional, not functional, subjective, and it expands these areas, and you're seeing, wow, thank goodness I got the sunlight to do this. A good coach would probably have the sun up in the 5th house, or 11th house, or maybe in the 8th house, or up high. A good teacher, a good motivator would probably have it low, but would not be so involved. So it's a different field in the world. If you meet the people that you're on the team, you're at school, you're playing on the sports team, or you're doing something like you're caught up in the objective world of importance in the school. Well, that's one thing. Those are the jocks and those are the other people, but the really intelligent people, a lot of people really with insight or creative sides are going to be subjective, and they're not going to want to be playing those outer games. They want time to indulge themselves and encouragement to do that and information. So there's 4 different ways of living, 4 different ways of teaching. I like to use example teaching because I can see the students. I can imagine students. So, but then I can see myself as a student. Then I can put my own life inside of it, my own angst and my own life inside. And say, well, look where I am around that. Yeah, and I see this stream going on. It's kind of like when you have a baby. As soon as you have a baby, especially first baby, there's a moment you pick up the baby, you're holding the baby for the first time, and you get the second. Here's my baby. But then you have the second one, you're seeing someone's holding me. So you're seeing the baby, and then your mother, you being the baby, your mother, parents being the baby. You see it going back. You see your whole family tree going back, or your generation going back. And then it comes back, you're still holding the baby. And then boom, it goes and you have to live it. But many people have these type of insights. Okay. But life is a powerful drive. 24 hours in a day. It's hard to keep conscious, alive, and purposeful and willful 24 hours a day. We usually try and be up for 8 hours, play or do things for another 8 hours, and sleep for the other 8. When you start meeting people who have been really spiritual, they're not sleeping. They go through a mode where they lie down and relax, but they can go without sleeping. At the same time, then 10 cups of coffee out at the job to keep the work going can keep you going for a while too. Sooner or later, you burn out. So, okay. So we got through these. We're going to come up to our next set of categories here. Okay. So as we go down, we're seeing more specifically, but these initial themes of rising, setting, above, below, functional, subjective, objective, In the signs, we have freedom and responsibility. In the houses, we have subjective and objective. Okay, and they're two, when you start putting these two together, they're really useful insights into someone's behavior, not just words. You get into the texture of it. When you start seeing the texture of what someone needs, then you can see, oh, the way we're working isn't working in their favor. It's easy to convince we got this system, everyone has to apply to it, that schools do it all the time. And then there's always people being the victims that don't fit into it. It's because we don't have to some degree, it's got to be there, the four-sided education system, but priorities, the politics throw priorities in one area or another, and then lives work out, and it changes over time. Okay. When you have, there's three houses of self. No, these are the four angular houses of dynamic being when you're trying to be somebody. Well, if you have their sun in a dynamic house, it's important for you to be somebody. You're going to push. It's not a passive thing. You're living for this. It's more important than anything else. Oh, more important than any of the other planets being anywhere. The sun, whatever house it's in, that's primary. So when you start empowering the other planets more than the sun or out of context with the sun, you start getting a disproportionate, or you start getting out of touch with the reality of how things work. You get a disproportionate sense of the planets. It's like saying, happy birthday to you. It's like, you're like putting things in the wrong place, and it sounds so strange. And it is strange to the person. So when someone is born with the sun in the angular houses, they're going to have to make something happen. There's four different ways of having to be. And their confidence will come from burning in it, from shining in it. So the three areas, the four areas, the first house, the house of identity, I've got to be somebody. I got to be me. I want a business with my name on it. I want to be famous. I want to be known. I've got to do something. I'm going to make my money. It's rising. It's subjective, but it's pushing to get it. I got to get this out of me. And I got to get that extra push more than more people. So they may seem socially out of touch because they're a little more blatant, but they're pushing to make creative things happen. And other people will back off and give them the room to do it or reinforce them. That's the first house dynamic being, burning. Just, this is me, ta-da! You know, if they had what would be a weak name, they might change their name so the name brings more attention to them. I'm the winner. Ta-da! Here I am. How do you like me so far? Okay, so when you put the sun up into the 10th house, where it's above the horizon and rising, functional, thinking about functional, it's very ambitious. It's about status, power, authority, and being in authority. I'm in my authoritative role. I'm the boss here. Don't tell me what to do. I'm doing it. So it can be very functional, but often a little blind. Not often these two sides are going to be projecting, not reacting. So this is how it's done. This is how we're doing. I'm setting up this company. We're building up this way. So I'm the authority, and I'm using my power in that area. And my confidence will come from doing it. But in doing that, it may be it's so easy to hide behind work and be busy with what you're doing that there's no time to get a rich personal lifestyle. It doesn't matter. I got to get this point of honor. I got to accomplish something. I'll get those other things too. But the sun is pushing to go that way to make things happen. So if you had something that's about business, about working with teams or getting groups of people to work together, having someone who's pushing to make something happen out of everything, who can direct it and control it, that can be very useful. A lot of people want to be that, and not everybody is capable of being that well. So if someone has their sun somewhere else, they're going to have to overcompensate to live up to that. Doesn't mean they can't, but it requires a compensation when what's natural for you. And so if someone had their sun below and they're up in a position of power, they're going to have the power, but they're going to have their play outside. They're going to be doing something else somewhere on the other side. So the position of power justifies the other things. So on a secondary level, but it's still sun in the 10th house, power is going towards status and career, honor, respect, practical things, business, being known. I can do this. If I say I'm going to do that, I'll get it done.